It's finally time. I may not have a PS5, but I've got a PC, and I can finally say that I've played Intermission. Final Fantasy VII Remake is the latest victim of the 9th console generation's unfortunate launch. The Intergrade version of the game has been available for half a year now, but if you wanted to do anything other than enshrine your PS5 disc, you have to be extremely patient, lucky, or willing to pay a scalper. Ew. But lo! It is now on PC, on the Epic Store. But we're not talking technical or logistical aspects here because I already did a video on that, which you can check out here. Today we're looking at what's actually in the game, specifically the things that aren't on the PS4 version. Obviously that's going to include the Intermission DLC, which is essentially a mini campaign that follows Yuffie and her new companion Sonon. But there are a few extra bells and whistles that also apply to the base game that we'll talk about as well. So, Yuffie's our main protagonist in this DLC, and she's come to Midgar in search of the ultimate materia. Her campaign is structurally a miniaturized version of Cloud's campaign. Square Enix have done their best to make this expansion feel pretty fleshed out in just a couple chapters. Yuffie and Sonon have their own unique abilities in combat. There are multiple weapons for each character with upgrades just like the base game, same for materia. The narrative and tone very much feel distinct from Avalanche's crew's story as well. The combat has a faster pace here. Yuffie can zip around, cast magic from afar, teleport, and parry enemy attacks. But the big change here is synergy. Sonon is unfortunately not directly controllable, but you can issue commands to him and initiate tandem combat. Hitting the synchronization button will link up your basic attacks and allow for some of your ATB moves to be amplified. This synergy brings new, interesting wrinkles to the strategy of combat, especially when you're going back through in hard mode, which I would very much recommend for this game in general. And of course, the fights still look gorgeous, with fluid animations, awesome enemy designs, and enough particles to make fireworks blush. Yuffie, being the only playable character, strikes a nice balance between physical and magical attacks. Her ninjutsu even allows you to use magic without consuming MP. But the fact that she is the only playable character does drag on the experience a little bit. In the base game, there were sections when a character would be on their own, but a lot of the time there were at least one, if not two other party members. It seems strange that Sonon is fighting with you and you can issue specific commands to him, but he's not playable. Feels like you're 90% of the way to controlling him directly, but it's probably more complicated under the hood than a layman like me would think. But with the limitation of one directly controllable character, it's about as good as one could hope. There are plenty of interesting new abilities and some new enemies to test them on. The traversal in this game also manages to distinguish itself from the main game. Yuffie's throwing star becomes an element in various environmental puzzles. They're never particularly difficult puzzles, but some of them are very satisfying to complete. There are also more vertical elements in this campaign, like climbing grates and riding these motorized, poles? Anyway, Intermission shakes out to about 5 hours for an initial playthrough, and probably another 5 or 6 for hard mode. One of the things they added in hard mode was a bespoke combat simulator, though weirdly it only has a small handful of matches. This feels like an easy way to put more content in the game. I mean, just copy-paste matches from the base game. I would honestly be fine with that. It's probably not that simple, but I can't imagine it's all that complicated either. And I suppose I should also mention Fort Condor. You know how The Witcher 3 suddenly introduced you to this card game, Gwent, and it turned out to be a fantastic diversion? Well, this isn't really that. It's introduced to you by this inconsequential clown who insists that you play this Fortnite-looking tower defense game in a basement with him. And you're just thrust into it and there's all this information on the screen. Yeah, that looks fine. Let's just get this over with. I'll just puke out some units and I won. Great. Hopefully I'll never have to think about that again. At least that was my initial reaction. I eventually went back and gave it a fair shake, and it's alright. I was definitely very put off by the art style as it doesn't seem to complement the main art style at all, and I'm also not typically into tower defense stuff. But it's alright. It's got a rock, paper, scissors thing going on with advantages and disadvantages. It's got airborne troops and ground-based soldiers, with some able to attack multiple areas and some only one. There are additional direct abilities given to you in the form of materia to give you a bit of a boost. And there are different boards you can use, which have different ATB, materia, and character slots. I don't know, if you're into this kind of thing, you'll probably like Fort Condor. With that out of the way, we can talk characters and plot. mild spoilers ahead. So let's first just talk about Yuffie. She has a very pronounced personality. As I said in my other video, I have pretty much no prior experience with Final Fantasy VII, so I'm blind to her original character. But in this game, she just screams bold, quirky anime girl throughout the game.
My name is Yuffie, materia hunter and elite special forces operative for the new Wutai government.
The other characters and the tone overall don't counteract this manic energy. There's no Cloud strife to deflate the whimsy, so the narrative experience overall is pretty different. And for some people that might be a plus, but personally I just don't care for that kind of tone. Oh no, there she goes falling again. She's such a quirky klutz. The plot also feels kind of pointless. Yuffie's main goal, aside from taking down Shinra, is getting the ultimate materia. She talks about it a lot, but in the end she just doesn't get it. She and Sonon fight two major enemies, one of whom is new for this game, and they don't really defeat either. And without spoiling too much, Sonon doesn't achieve much personally either. It's much ado about nothing. But it's not like I actively disliked the narrative in this game. It was entertaining in its own way, and there were occasionally moments that were actually interesting. Unlike a certain other game. Oh, I'm 2 for 2 on Death Stranding references. So mileage will vary on whether you enjoyed the story for sure. But even if you don't enjoy it, I'd say the gameplay more than makes up for it. As a final note on Intermission specific features, I have to highlight the music. It's fantastic. The ambient music in several stages caught my attention frequently because it was so catchy, like this sick jazzy number. And don't even get me started on the Happy Turtle. All of the different styles they came up with for this bar's theme music are gold, especially this fucking metal song. Oh, and every time I picked up one of the posters, the jingle killed me. The only problem with the music is the overlap. For example, there were times when picking up posters that the jingle would play on top of a speaker playing another Happy Turtle jingle on top of the ambient music in the background.
Gotcha!
It's pretty messy. But aside from that, the music's fantastic, A+. On to the base game. The biggest addition is the new combat simulator enemy, Weiss the Immaculate. They even put a new cutscene in with Chadley introducing him. Now, I've beaten every other enemy in the game, including all the combat simulator matches, and I got this super special secret conclusion to Chadley's story. But Weiss is a damn doozy. Weiss is plucked out of the expanded Final Fantasy VII content, Dirge of Cerberus specifically, and in this game, he reminds me of one of those super secret endgame bosses from the Kingdom Hearts games. He's super serious, super anime, and he's got these moves that have him zipping and whooshing all around the map, doing these big moves with energy blasts.
Oh god. Oh no, not this again. Oh please. Oh dear god. I can't take it. No. Oh, don't do that move. Oh, please god. Please. Just end my suffering. Please. Just let it be over.
Yeah, it's a pretty tough fight. Aside from that, the base game just has some visual and quality of life improvements, which apply to Intermission as well. You've got an improved lighting system, which is just gorgeous. I cannot get over it. They also added fog into some areas, which further improves the atmosphere. And of course, you can run the game at higher resolutions and frame rates, though the resolution is secretly dynamic. Again, check out my other video for more on that. The other major gameplay addition is the indicator for unblockable attacks, which is very useful, and I really wish they'd just patch that into the PS4 version, but I guess it's just not in the cards. So that's what most of us have been missing out on for 6 months, and unfortunately, if you're just in it for the DLC, you still gotta pay full price, or should I say full price and then some, because the DLC is not sold separately. Plus, it's still on Epic for the moment, which has its own issues. But for me, I'd say it was sort of worth it, but let me know what you think. Tell me how bad Epic is in the comments. That's a fun thing to do on the internet. Anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.